Admiral Jiwoo sat in her office at Lunar Command, drinking her third cup of coffee that morning. The view from her window showed Earth hanging in the black sky like a blue jewel. She had worked here for 15 years and never got tired of that sight. Her computer beeped with an incoming transmission marked as high priority. She opened the message and started reading. It was from something called the Galactic Council. Jiwoo had never heard of them before. The message was long and full of fancy words, but the meaning was simple enough. They were giving humanity 30 days to surrender all space territories outside the solar system. If humans refused, the Council would send their fleet to destroy Earth. Jiwoo read the message again, looking for a joke or a prank. This had to be someone's idea of humor, but the transmission codes were real. This message had come from deep space, from coordinates no human ship had ever visited. She leaned back in her chair and laughed. Another one, she said to herself. That's the fourth threat this decade. She forwarded the message to Fleet Commander Taeho, who was somewhere out in the Kuiper Belt checking on mining operations. She added a short note asking if he thought this was serious. His reply came back 30 minutes later with just 5 words. Probably not, but let's check. Jiwoo sent the message up the chain of command to Earth. She figured the politicians would want to see this. Within hours, President Hana called an emergency meeting of the United Earth government. Representatives from every nation gathered in Geneva to discuss the threat. President Hana stood at the podium and displayed the Council's message on the big screens. Ladies and gentlemen, we have received a declaration of war from an alien coalition. They claim to represent 847 different species. They say they have 50,000 warships ready to attack us. The room fell silent for a moment. Then someone in the back started laughing. Soon others joined in. President Hana smiled and raised her hand for quiet. I know it sounds ridiculous, she said. Our commercial shipping fleet alone has more than 50,000 vessels. But we need to take this seriously. These aliens don't know what they're dealing with. We need to warn them before they do something stupid. The government spent the next 6 hours debating how to respond. Some wanted to ignore the message completely. Others suggested sending back a detailed explanation of human military capabilities. A few thought humanity should just show up with a fleet and scare the aliens away. President Hana decided on a different approach. She would send a polite reply asking if the Council was absolutely sure they wanted to start a war. She would include some basic information about human technology, just enough to give them a hint. Maybe they would reconsider. The message was sent through the same channels the Council had used. It was formal and respectful but firm. Earth would not surrender its territory. If the Council wanted peace, humanity was willing to talk. If they wanted war, humanity would defend itself. Far across the galaxy, War Commander Threxel received Earth's reply. He read it carefully, looking for signs of fear or desperation. He found none. The humans seemed calm, almost casual about the whole thing. They even asked questions like they were clarifying a shipping contract. Threxel showed the message to his officers. They don't understand what's happening, he said. They think we're bluffing. These primitives have never faced the might of the Council. They will learn. His fleet of 50,000 warships began moving toward the Sol system. It would take them 3 weeks to arrive. Threxel used that time to study everything the Council knew about humans. The information was limited. Earth had only been sending radio signals into space for a few centuries. They had only left their home planet 200 years ago. The Council's intelligence report said humans were a young species, barely out of their cradle. They had spread through their solar system quickly, but had never traveled beyond it. Their technology seemed adequate for a developing civilization. Nothing special, nothing threatening. Threxel felt confident. This would be an easy victory. The Council had fought hundreds of wars over thousands of years. They had never lost. Humanity would be added to the list of conquered species. They would serve the Council like so many others before them. Back on Earth, Admiral Jiwoo watched the approaching fleet on her sensors. They were still 3 weeks away, moving at speeds that seemed slow by human standards. She sent a message to Taeho asking if he should bother coming back from the Kuiper Belt. Not yet, he replied. Let's see if they're actually serious about this. President Hana addressed the public that evening. She explained the situation calmly, telling people there was no need to panic. The approaching alien fleet posed no real threat. If necessary, Earth's defense forces could handle it easily, but she hoped the aliens would realize their mistake before anyone got hurt. Most people went on with their daily lives. Some were excited about finally meeting aliens. Others were annoyed that this might disrupt shipping schedules. A few thought the whole thing was a hoax. Nobody was scared. 3 weeks later, War Commander Threxal's fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system. He expected to see military installations, defensive stations, and warships ready for battle. Instead, he found cargo haulers, mining platforms, and what looked like floating cities. There were thousands of vessels moving through space, but none of them seemed military. Where are their defenses? Threxal asked his sensor officer. Unknown, Commander. We detect no weapon signatures. These appear to be civilian vessels. Threxal studied the displays. Perhaps the humans were hiding their military fleet. Perhaps they planned to ambush his forces. He ordered his ships to proceed carefully toward the inner system. They would teach these humans a lesson about challenging the Council. Captain Wu Jin was having a bad day. His cargo hauler was 3 hours behind schedule because of engine maintenance. Now traffic control was telling him to evacuate his route immediately. Something about an alien fleet entering the system. He checked his manifest and groaned. If he left now, he would lose the entire shipment of steel beams he had just loaded. Control, this is Hauler 773, he said into his radio. Can I get 30 minutes? I need to finish loading. Negative 773. Clear the area now. Wu Jin grumbled, but started securing his cargo. He had been hauling freight for 20 years and had never seen this much fuss over anything. Aliens or not, his ship had bills to pay. He was just closing the cargo bay doors when his sensors screamed a warning. 3 alien warships had targeted him. A beam of energy shot across space and hit his hull. Wu Jin waited for the explosion, for the alarms, for something bad to happen. Nothing did. The beam had hit his radiation shielding and dissipated harmlessly. His ship did not even shake. What the hell? Wu Jin checked his damage report. Everything showed green. No breaches, no fires, no systems offline. The aliens had just shot him with their best weapon, and it had done absolutely nothing. He opened a channel to Earth Traffic Control. Control, I want to file a complaint. These aliens just fired on a civilian vessel in a commercial lane. That's got to be against regulations. The traffic controller sounded tired. We'll add it to the list, 773. Just get clear. Wu Jin powered up his engines and moved away, muttering about aggressive drivers and terrible space manners. On Mars, Chief Engineer Hai Jin was working on the terraforming project when alarms started ringing across the facility. The alien fleet had begun bombarding the planet with their weapons. She ran to her control station and pulled up the damage reports. 6 atmospheric processors had shut down. 2 backup power grids were offline. The primary shield generators were operating at 98% efficiency instead of 100%. He-Jin stared at the screens in disbelief. The aliens were using planet-cracking weapons, and all they had managed to do was knock out some backup systems. She rerouted power from the secondary grid and rebooted the processors. Within 5 minutes, everything was running normally again. She made a note in her log about the incident and went back to work. This was barely an inconvenience, just another technical problem to solve. The Council fleet continued firing on targets throughout the solar system. They hit mining stations, orbital habitats, and transport vessels. Every shot should have been devastating. Every target should have been destroyed. Instead, humans just filed complaints and rerouted their schedules. War Commander Threxal watched his tactical displays in growing confusion. His weapons were not working. They were firing correctly, hitting their targets accurately, but causing no real damage. Human vessels had shielding that absorbed everything his fleet could throw at them. How is this possible? He demanded. These are the same weapons we used to conquer the Rexian Empire. The same weapons that destroyed the Kelthon homeworld. Why aren't they working? His science officer studied the data streaming in from the battle. Commander, I believe the humans have shield technology far beyond our understanding. Our weapons are simply too weak to penetrate. Too weak? These are Council standard weapons. They should be more than enough for a primitive species. Yes, Commander. They should be. Threxal felt a cold sensation spreading through his body. This was not going according to plan. He had attacked with overwhelming force and achieved nothing. The humans were not even fighting back. They were just avoiding his ships and complaining about the disruption. He sent an urgent message back to the Council. The first wave had failed. He needed reinforcements. He needed better weapons. He needed help. The Council leadership received his message with shock. Threxal was one of their best commanders. His fleet was one of their strongest. How could humans, a species they had never heard of until recently, resist so easily? They immediately ordered the second and third waves to join the attack. Another 100,000 warships began moving toward the Sol system. If the first wave could not break human defenses, they would overwhelm them with numbers. Back at Lunar Command, Admiral Jiwoo read the reports from across the solar system. The aliens had fired thousands of shots and caused minor inconveniences. A few people had been slightly injured, mostly from tripping during evacuations. No deaths, no major damage. Nothing serious. She sent a message to Fleet Commander Tae-ho. They're actually attacking us. Should we do something about this? Tae-ho's reply came back quickly. I suppose we should. Send a patrol ship to check it out. Something small. Jiwoo smiled and gave the orders. A single corvette barely larger than a civilian transport launched from Luna Base. Its mission was simple. Investigate the disturbance and report back. The crew did not even bother loading live ammunition. Lieutenant Sang-woo yawned as his corvette approached the area where the alien fleet was positioned. He had graduated from the academy only 6 months ago. This was supposed to be a routine patrol, not a combat mission. His crew consisted of other recent graduates who were still learning their jobs. Lieutenant, we have visual on the alien fleet, his sensor officer said, counting approximately 47,000 vessels. They're arranged in a standard attack formation. Sang-woo looked at the numbers and frowned. That's a lot of ships. Are they all military? Appears so, sir. They match the profiles from the Council transmission. Okay. Sang-woo checked his orders again. Admiral Jiwoo wanted him to investigate and report back. She did not say anything about engaging the enemy, but protocol required him to defend himself if fired upon. Take us closer. Let's get some better readings. The corvette moved toward the alien formation. It was a small ship, designed for training exercises and basic patrol duties. Its weapons were outdated by 20 years. Its shields were standard civilian grade. By human standards, it was nothing special. War Commander Threxal saw the human ship approaching on his sensors. Finally, the humans were sending their military to fight. He studied the vessel carefully. It was small, but that meant nothing. Perhaps humans built their warships compact and efficient. All ships target that vessel, Threxal ordered. Concentrate fire. I want it destroyed immediately. 5,000 Council warships turned their weapons toward Sang-woo's corvette. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between them. It was enough firepower to vaporize a small moon. Inside the corvette, alarms started beeping softly. Lieutenant, they're shooting at us, the weapons officer said. Shields are holding at 100%. No damage. Sang-woo watched the light show outside his viewport. Thousands of enemy shots were hitting his shields and bouncing off harmlessly. He had seen this before in training simulations. The academy used similar exercises to teach cadets about shield management. Return fire, he said. Standard training protocols. Let's see what these ships are made of. The corvette's main gun fired a single shot. It was a basic kinetic round, nothing fancy. The projectile hit one of the alien warships and punched straight through its shields and hull. The ship exploded in a bright flash. Direct hit, the weapons officer reported. Target destroyed. Their shields didn't even slow us down. Sang-woo felt confused. These alien ships had no armor. Their shields were like tissue paper. How did they expect to fight a war with technology this weak? He tried a few more shots using the same targeting exercises they practiced at the academy. Each shot destroyed an alien ship. Lieutenant, 17 enemy vessels disabled or destroyed, the tactical officer said. The rest are retreating. Sang-woo watched the alien fleet pulling back in disarray. This was strange. He had barely done anything. His weapons were old and low-powered compared to modern human standards, yet the aliens were running away like he had brought a battleship. He opened a channel to Lunar Command. Admiral Jiwoo, this is Patrol 7. I investigated the sensor anomalies. They were hostile vessels. I engaged per protocol and they retreated. Permission to return to base? Negative, Patrol 7, Jiwoo replied. Stay on station. I'm sending support ships to help clear the debris. You're blocking civilian traffic lanes. Understood, Admiral. Sang-woo sighed. Now he had to wait around while cleanup crews dealt with the wreckage. This was turning into a long day. On board his flagship, War Commander Threxal stared at his screens in horror. The human ship had destroyed 17 of his vessels without taking any damage. His fleet had poured enough firepower to level a city, and the human shields had not even flickered. This was not a patrol ship. This was a super dreadnought, a capital ship designed to destroy entire fleets. The humans had sent their most powerful weapon against him as a casual response. What else did they have waiting in reserve? All ships retreat to the outer system, Threxal ordered. We need to regroup and reassess. His officers looked at him with fear in their eyes. They had never seen their commander back down from a fight. But none of them argued. They had all seen what just happened. They had lost 17 ships to a single enemy vessel that had barely tried. As his fleet withdrew, Threxal sent another message to the council. This time his report was desperate. The humans were not primitives. They were not a weak species. They had technology far beyond anything the council possessed. Their single patrol ship had defeated his entire fleet. He recommended immediate peace negotiations. He suggested offering tribute and favorable trade terms. He begged the council to stop sending more ships to their doom. The council leadership read his report in silence. Then they dismissed it as the ravings of a coward. War Commander Threxal had clearly lost his nerve. No single species could be that powerful. He must have made tactical errors or faced some trick. The council removed Threxal from command and ordered him to commit ritual suicide for his failure. Then they sent their second and third waves toward Earth. Another 100,000 warships would surely be enough to crush human resistance. Back at Lunar Command, Admiral Jiwoo read the report from Lieutenant Sang-woo. She forwarded it to President Hana with a short note. The aliens are serious about attacking us. Their technology is very primitive. We destroyed 17 of their ships without sustaining any damage. They have retreated for now, but sensor readings show more ships approaching. What are your orders? President Hana read the report 3 times. Then she called an emergency cabinet meeting. This situation was getting out of hand. The aliens clearly did not understand what they were fighting. If this continued, humanity might accidentally wipe out an entire civilization. She needed to find a way to end this war before the real fighting started. President Hana stood before the United Earth government and looked at the concerned faces around her. The situation was no longer funny. More alien fleets were coming, and they seemed determined to fight no matter how badly they were losing. Someone was going to get hurt, probably millions of aliens who did not understand what they were facing. We need to take this seriously now, she said. I'm authorizing the mobilization of the Merchant Marine Reserve. We'll also activate our mothballed military assets, not to fight but to show these aliens what they're up against. Maybe if they see our real capabilities, they'll stop attacking. The government voted to approve her plan. Within hours, thousands of reserve ships received activation orders. Cargo haulers got refitted with military-grade shields and weapons. Old warships that had been sitting in storage for decades were powered up and crewed. Humanity was not going to war, but they were making sure everyone knew they could. Dr. Yuna worked in a research facility on Luna, studying the wreckage from the alien ships that Lieutenant Sang-woo had destroyed. She was a xenobiologist, excited to finally have alien technology to examine, but what she found made her feel sick. The alien weapons were primitive. They used basic energy projection that humanity had stopped using 300 years ago. The aliens thought these weapons were advanced, but they were actually museum pieces by human standards. Their shields worked on principles that human scientists had abandoned as inefficient centuries ago. She pulled up the data on their faster-than-light drives. The aliens could travel between stars, but their ships were slow. A human cargo hauler could cross the same distance in half the time. Their material science was weak. Their hull armor was brittle. Their computers were simple. Dr. Yuna sat down and stared at her findings. She had expected to discover amazing alien technology, things that would teach humanity new tricks. Instead, she found that the aliens were desperately behind in every field of science and engineering. She wrote a report and sent it to Fleet Commander Tai-ho. He read it in his office aboard his command ship and felt his blood run cold. He understood what this meant. Tai-ho called an emergency meeting with his senior staff. He displayed Dr. Yuna's findings on the main screen and let them read it in silence. "Sir, these readings can't be right," one of his officers said. "These aliens have conquered hundreds of worlds. They claim to be the dominant force in the galaxy. How can they be this far behind us?" "Because we developed alone," Tai-ho said quietly. "We never met another species. We assumed everyone else in the galaxy was as advanced as us or more advanced. We built our technology to match what we thought was out there. But the truth is we were racing against ourselves." He pulled up a star map showing Earth's isolation. Humanity had emerged in a quiet corner of the galaxy, far from any other civilizations. While other species had met each other, traded technology, and settled into comfortable standards, humans had pushed forward alone. They had no one to tell them what was possible or impossible. They just kept inventing and improving. The Council isn't weak, Tejo continued. By galactic standards, they're probably very strong. They've been using the same technology for thousands of years because it worked well enough. Why would they innovate when they already dominated everyone they met? But we did innovate, another officer said. We kept pushing because we thought we had to. Exactly. Tejo looked at the numbers again. And now we have a problem. If we fight these aliens with our full military capability, we won't be having a war. We'll be committing genocide. Our weapons are so far ahead of theirs that we could wipe out their entire civilization in days. The room fell silent. Everyone understood what he was saying. Humanity had accidentally become the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because they were aggressive or violent, but because they had developed military technology assuming they would face equally advanced enemies. What do we do, sir? His second-in-command asked. We fight with restraint, Tejo said. We disable their ships instead of destroying them. We capture instead of kill. We show them we're strong enough to win, but merciful enough to let them live. And we pray they accept peace before we run out of patience. He sent his orders throughout the fleet. All commanders were to minimize casualties. All weapons were to be set for disabling shots only. No ship was to be destroyed if it could be captured instead. The goal was not victory. It was survival for both sides. Far across space, the Council's second and third waves approached the Sol system. The fleet commanders had heard about Threxal's defeat, but they dismissed it as the failure of a weak leader. They had 100,000 ships, twice as many as the first wave. They had the best crews and the newest vessels in the Council fleet. Admiral Kreshnor commanded this combined force. He was a veteran of 50 campaigns and had never lost a battle. He studied the intelligence reports on humanity and saw nothing that worried him. Yes, their shields were strong and their weapons were effective, but numbers would win this fight. No species could stand against the combined might of 2 Council waves. He ordered his fleet to enter the solar system in a massive formation that stretched across millions of kilometers. It was designed to overwhelm any defense, to surround any enemy, to crush all resistance. The Council had used this formation to conquer entire star systems. It had never failed. As his ships crossed into human territory, Kreshnor received a transmission from Earth. President Hana appeared on his screen, looking tired but determined. This is your last chance to withdraw, she said. We don't want to fight you, but if you continue, we will defend ourselves. Please turn back before it's too late. Kreshnor laughed and closed the channel. The humans were bluffing, trying to scare him with words because they knew they could not win with weapons. He would teach them the price of defying the Council. Commander Nari stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched the Council fleet approaching on her displays. The Sixth Fleet was humanity's primary defensive force, consisting of 200 warships that had been specifically designed for combat. Unlike Lieutenant Sangwoo's training corvette, these were real military vessels with modern weapons and experienced crews. All ships, this is Nari, she said into the fleet communication channel. Remember your orders. We disable, we don't destroy. We capture, we don't kill. I want every ship in this fleet to follow those rules exactly. Any questions? Commander, what if they won't surrender? One of her captains asked. Then we disable their ships and rescue their crews anyway. We're not here to win a fight. We're here to stop one. The Council fleet entered weapons range and immediately opened fire. Thousands of energy beams and missiles flew toward the human ships. Nari's fleet did not even bother raising full shields. The alien weapons were too weak to pose any real threat. Return fire, Nari ordered. Target their engines and weapon systems only. I want clean shots. What happened next would be recorded in Council history as the most terrifying 4 hours of warfare ever witnessed. Human ships moved through the battle space with impossible precision. They dodged enemy fire not because they had to, but because it was more efficient than taking hits on their shields. Each human vessel was connected to the others through quantum-entangled communication networks. Their AI systems shared targeting data instantly across the entire fleet. When one ship fired, every other ship knew exactly where that shot would land, and adjusted their own firing solutions accordingly. The result was a level of coordination that seemed supernatural to the watching aliens. Nari's weapons officer targeted a Council ship and fired a gravitational lance. The beam hit the alien vessel and bent space around its engine core. The engine shut down without exploding, leaving the crew alive but unable to move. Another human ship fired a quantum disruptor that disabled the alien vessel's weapons and communications without damaging its life support. Target disabled, the weapons officer reported. Moving to next target. This pattern repeated across the entire battlefield. Human ships systematically shut down Council vessels one after another. They did not destroy. They simply stopped each enemy ship from fighting. Medical drones launched from the human fleet to check on alien crews and provide emergency aid if needed. Admiral Kreshenor watched his tactical display in growing horror. His fleet of 100,000 ships was being taken apart like a broken machine. Human weapons did things that should not be possible. They could target specific systems inside a ship without damaging anything else. They could shut down engines and weapons while leaving life support running. But what terrified him most was the precision. Human ships were not firing randomly or in desperation. Each shot was calculated, controlled, and exact. They were fighting with surgical precision that required computing power beyond anything the Council possessed. All ships, concentrate fire on that flagship, Kreshenor ordered, pointing at Nari's vessel. Full power. Everything we have. 3,000 Council ships turned their weapons toward Nari's flagship. The combined firepower was enough to crack a planet's crust. Every weapon in those ships fired at once, creating a wave of energy that lit up the space around them. Nari's flagship took the hit directly. The shields flared bright blue as they absorbed the impact. Then the light faded and the ship emerged completely undamaged. Not a scratch. Not a flicker in the power systems. The alien weapons had done absolutely nothing. That was rude, Nari said calmly. Weapons, please disable all ships that just fired on us. Make it quick. Her weapons officer nodded and began working. Within 2 minutes, all 3,000 alien ships that had targeted the flagship were drifting in space. Their systems shut down and their crews unharmed but helpless. The battle continued for 4 hours. Not because the humans were struggling, but because they were being careful. They took time to ensure each shot was perfect. Each disabled ship was secure, each alien crew was safe. By the end, 97% of the Council fleet had been captured. The remaining 3% had managed to escape by retreating at maximum speed. Nari looked at the casualty reports. No human deaths, no human injuries. On the alien side, only 300 casualties out of more than 5 million crew members. Most of those casualties were minor injuries from panicked evacuations, not from human weapons. Send medical teams to all captured vessels, Nari ordered. I want every injured alien treated with our best care. And someone open a channel to the Council Admiral. I need to talk to him. Admiral Kreshenor sat alone in his command chair staring at nothing. His fleet was gone, defeated, captured, and the humans had done it without breaking a sweat. He barely looked up when the communication channel opened. Admiral Kreshenor, Nari said from his screen. Your crew is safe. Your ships will be returned to you undamaged once we reach a peace agreement. You fought bravely, but this war needs to end. Kreshenor finally looked at her. Why, he asked. Why did you hold back? You could have destroyed us all in minutes. I saw your weapons. I know what you're capable of. Why did you spare us? Nari was quiet for a moment. Because war is what you do when you failed at everything else. We're good at it, but we're not proud of it. We don't want to be the species that kills everyone who disagrees with them. We'd rather be the species that gives others a chance to make better choices. Your weapons are beyond anything we imagined, Kreshenor said. You could conquer the entire galaxy. Why don't you? Because what's the point? Nari replied. Conquest just creates enemies. Partnership creates friends. We'd rather have friends. She ended the transmission and turned to her crew. Get those medical teams moving. And someone contact Earth. Tell President Hana that the fourth wave is neutralized. No major casualties on either side. Her officers began carrying out her orders. Around them, the wreckage of the battle drifted in space, but it was not the wreckage of destruction. It was the wreckage of mercy. The council chamber on the homeworld of the Vrelian species was in chaos. Representatives from 847 different species shouted at each other, demanding answers, blaming each other for the disaster. 4 waves of their fleet had been sent to conquer Earth. 4 waves had been defeated or captured with embarrassing ease. We should negotiate, said Ambassador Trell, a small reptilian creature from a peaceful trading world. The humans have shown us mercy. They could have killed millions of our people, but they chose not to. That means something. It means they're weak, snarled General Vrock, a massive warrior from a species built for combat. They hesitate. They doubt. We should send our entire fleet, overwhelming numbers that even their technology cannot defeat. We've already sent 250,000 ships, Trell replied. How many more do you want to sacrifice? The argument continued for hours, getting nowhere. Finally, High Counselor Zarin called for order. She was ancient even by the standards of her long-lived species, and she had led the Council through countless crises. But nothing like this. We have one weapon left, Zarin said quietly. The Planet Eradicator. If we activate it and aim it at Earth's sun, we can destroy their entire system. They will have no time to evacuate, no chance to defend. It will be the end of humanity. The chamber fell silent. The Planet Eradicator was the Council's ultimate weapon, used only once before to destroy a species that had threatened to develop technology that could challenge Council dominance. It was terrible, final, and absolute. We would be murderers, Trell said softly. We would be destroying billions of innocent people. We would be ensuring the survival of the Council, Vrock replied. If humanity is allowed to exist, they will eventually conquer us all. Better to act now while we still can. The vote was called. The Council was divided almost evenly, but in the end, fear won over mercy. The order was given to activate the Planet Eradicator. On a hidden military station at the edge of Council space, technicians began powering up the ancient weapon. It would take 6 hours to charge fully. Once activated, it would fire a beam that would destabilize Earth's sun, causing it to explode. The Sol system would be wiped from existence. Engineer Hyun-Soo was working late in his lab on Mars when his computer alerted him to an unusual energy signature. He pulled up the readings and frowned. Something was charging up, something big. The power levels were enormous, and the energy pattern matched theoretical designs for stellar manipulation weapons. He ran the calculations and felt his heart sink. Someone was getting ready to blow up the sun. Computer, trace the source of that energy signature, he said. The computer worked for several minutes. Source located. Coordinates transmitted to your display. Hyun-Soo looked at the location and made a decision. He called his team together, all 15 of them. Pack your tools. We're going on a field trip. Where? Asked Ji-Min, his assistant engineer. To stop someone from killing everyone we know. They took a fast transport ship and jumped to the coordinates. The Planet Eradicator station was not hidden very well by human standards. It had basic stealth technology that would fool other Council species, but human sensors saw through it easily. The station's security was even worse. Hyun-Soo and his team docked with the station using standard airlocks. Nobody stopped them. They walked through the corridors, found the main weapon control room, and simply disabled it. The Council technicians did not even notice until the weapon stopped charging. Who are you? One of the alien technicians demanded. This is a restricted military facility. I'm Engineer Hyun-Soo from Earth, he said politely. Your security is really bad. You should fix that. He left a few of his team members to guard the weapon and took the rest back to his ship. Then he called President Hana and reported what he had found. Back in the Council chamber, alarms started ringing. The Planet Eradicator had been shut down by an unknown force. Security teams reported that humans had somehow infiltrated the station, disabled the weapon, and were now transmitting a live video feed to the entire Council. Hyun-Soo appeared on every screen in the chamber. Behind him, his team was examining the Planet Eradicator's core. Hello, he said cheerfully. I'm Engineer Hyun-Soo. I'm here at your secret weapons station. Just wanted to let you know that we've disabled this thing. It won't be destroying any suns today. Also, you really need better security. I walked right in. High Counselor Zarin stared at the screen in shock. How did you find us? How did you get past our defenses? You don't have any real defenses, Hyun-Soo said. At least not by our standards. Look, we know you're scared. We know you don't understand what's happening. But trying to kill us isn't going to help. How about we talk instead? The transmission changed to show President Hana sitting at her desk on Earth. She looked tired but determined. Members of the Galactic Council, she began. We could end this war in an afternoon. Our actual military fleet hasn't even deployed yet. Everything you've faced so far has been defensive forces and converted civilian vessels. If we wanted to, we could sweep through Council space and conquer every world you control. But we don't want that. She leaned forward, looking directly at the camera. We want partnership. We want peace. We want to help you advance your technology, improve your lives, and build a better galaxy together. We're offering you a choice. Make peace with us now and we'll share everything we have. Continue this war, and we'll have to show you what humans are really like when we stop being polite. She paused to let that sink in. You have 48 hours to decide. Choose wisely. The transmission ended. The council chamber erupted in chaos again, but this time it was different. Fear mixed with hope. Anger mixed with curiosity. Some wanted to fight to the end. Others wanted to accept Earth's offer. A few wanted to know how humanity had become so powerful. Ambassador Trell stood up and waited for quiet. When the chamber finally settled, she asked the question everyone was thinking. What happens if we refuse? On every screen, President Hana's recorded response played. Her expression did not change, but her eyes became cold. Then we'll show you what humans are like when we stop being polite. The council debated for 47 hours and 32 minutes. In the end, survival instinct won over pride. High Counselor Zarin sent the official message of surrender to Earth, along with a request for peace negotiations. President Hana accepted immediately and invited council representatives to Geneva for talks. The negotiations took 3 months. They were messy, complicated, and frustrating for everyone involved. The council wanted to maintain some dignity and authority. Humanity wanted to ensure the war was truly over and establish real friendship, not just temporary peace. 847 different species all had opinions about how things should work. But slowly, carefully, they built something new. The council agreed to end all hostilities and open trade relations with Earth. Humanity agreed to share technology gradually, helping council species advance without overwhelming them. Both sides agreed to establish cultural exchange programs and joint research projects. Admiral Jiwoo found herself in charge of the captured council fleet. Thousands of alien warships sat in parking orbits around various human facilities, waiting to be returned to their owners. She worked with former enemies to convert the ships into exploration and research vessels. "Why are you helping us?" asked Commander Rel, a council officer who had fought against the Sixth Fleet. "We tried to destroy you." "Because staying angry doesn't help anyone," Jiwoo replied. "You made a mistake. You attacked someone without understanding what you were facing. But you're learning now. That's what matters." She showed Rel the new shield generators that were being installed on his ship. They were old by human standards, maybe 50 years out of date. But they were far better than anything the council had before. "This technology alone will save thousands of lives in your fleet," Jiwoo explained. "Better shields mean fewer casualties if you ever face a real threat. And these are just the basic models. As we build more trust, we'll share better things." Rel looked at the generators with wonder. "Why give us this? We could use it against you someday." "You could try," Jiwoo said with a smile. "But you'd lose and we'd both know it. Besides, we'd rather have strong allies than weak enemies. Strong allies can help us explore the galaxy and face whatever else is out there." Captain Wu Jin went back to hauling freight, but now his cargo manifest included strange new items. He carried cultural artifacts from alien worlds to Earth museums. He transported student groups of young aliens who wanted to study at human universities. He even hauled food shipments to council worlds that were struggling with famine, using his cargo hauler's speed to deliver fresh supplies before they spoiled. "This is weird," he said to his co-pilot as they watched a group of alien students board his ship. "A year ago, I was complaining about aggressive drivers. Now I'm running a school bus," but he did not really mind. The aliens were polite, curious, and genuinely excited to learn about humanity. Some of them asked questions that made Wu Jin think about his own culture in new ways. It was actually kind of interesting. Dr. Yuna established the Institute of Comparative Development with funding from both Earth and the Council. Scientists from dozens of species worked together to understand why humanity had advanced so differently from everyone else. The research was fascinating and sometimes disturbing. "We nearly destroyed ourselves 3 times, Yuna explained to a group of alien researchers. Nuclear war, environmental collapse, artificial intelligence gone wrong. Each time we survived by cooperation, by choosing to work together instead of fighting. That forced us to develop technology that could save us from ourselves." "So your weapons are so powerful because you were trying to prevent war?" asked a Vrelian scientist. "Exactly," Yuna said. "We built defenses that could stop any attack because we knew how dangerous we could be to ourselves. We never expected to meet anyone else, so we just kept improving." By the time we reached the stars, we were ready for threats that didn't actually exist out here. The research revealed something important. Most galactic species had developed slower because they felt safe. The Council maintained order, prevented major wars, and created a stable environment. There was no pressure to innovate quickly. Humanity had developed alone in a dangerous universe, always preparing for the worst. Fleet Commander Tejo accepted a position on the newly reformed Galactic Council, which was now called the Galactic Community at his suggestion. His first proposal caused immediate debate. Council implies hierarchy, he explained. It suggests some species are in charge and others must follow. Community implies partnership. We're all in this together, helping each other become better. The name change passed after much discussion. Other changes followed. The old council's military forces were reorganized into a community defense force, focused on protection rather than conquest. Trade barriers between species were reduced. Cultural exchange programs expanded rapidly. President Hanna gave her final address before leaving office. Term limits meant she could not serve another period and she was ready to rest. She had guided humanity through first contact with alien life, through a war that should not have happened, and into a new era of galactic partnership. We answered violence with restraint, she said to the gathered crowd. Not because we were weak, but because we understood the true cost of war. We nearly destroyed ourselves 3 times before reaching the stars. We learned mercy the hard way, through pain and loss and near extinction. I hope we never forget those lessons. She looked directly at the cameras, knowing that millions of humans and billions of aliens were watching. The council asked if that was all we had. They meant it as an insult, as a challenge, but it was actually a good question. Is that all? Is violence all we're capable of? Is war all we know how to do? The answer is no. We're capable of so much more, and now we'll show the galaxy what else we can be. Engineer Hyun-soo stood in front of a mixed team of human and alien engineers. They were working on a joint project to develop faster-than-light drives that could benefit all species. A young alien engineer named Dren raised his hand nervously. Engineer Hyun-soo, can I ask a question? Of course. Were you scared during the war? When the council attacked? Hyun-soo thought about his answer carefully. Terrified, he admitted. Not of losing, of winning, of what we would become if we fought the way we're actually capable of fighting. Every human carries that fear. We know what we can do. We know how dangerous we are. That's why we hold back. You fear yourselves more than you fear your enemies? Yes, that's the real human difference. We spent thousands of years fighting each other before we learned to cooperate. We know what monsters we can become, so we choose every day to be something better. Sometimes we fail. But we keep trying. Dren looked confused. That sounds exhausting. It is, Hyun-soo said with a smile. But it's worth it. High above Earth, in a space station that served as the new headquarters for the galactic community, Admiral Jiwoo met with Admiral Kreshnor. The alien who had commanded the fourth wave against humanity was now working as a liaison officer, helping to integrate council and human military doctrines. Do you regret it? Jiwoo asked him. Attacking us? Kreshnor was quiet for a long time. Every day, he finally said. We could have had all of this without the fighting. We could have been partners from the beginning. But we were too proud and too scared. Well, you're not making that mistake again, Jiwoo said. That's what matters. She looked out the window at the stars beyond. Ships from 100 different species moved through the space lanes, trading, exploring, learning from each other. It was messy and chaotic and sometimes frustrating. But it was also beautiful. The Galactic Council had declared war with overwhelming force and absolute confidence. Humans had replied with a simple question. Is that all? It had not been a boast about human strength. It had been an invitation to see beyond violence, to imagine something better than endless conquest. The Council had expected domination. Humanity had offered partnership, and in the end, partnership had won.